So there was a lot of concern even the last class before they canceled in-person lectures after spring break. It'd be so sad if Madison had to shut down because of coronavirus. How would online classes work, right? There's a lot of uncertainty that's expressed in these gots and nots. If we aren't allowed to come back after spring break because of the coronavirus, how will we proceed with this class? How will we do lab if UW cancels classes, which they have? Concerns of having class after break. I don't want to go online. I like class. I will be sad if the coronavirus makes us take the rest of the semester online. I don't want school to close. If the university goes online classes because of the coronavirus, what would that look like for this class? Hopefully the coronavirus doesn't rob us of valuable class time. I really appreciate that you value this time we spend in here together, because I have to tell you, I do. That spending this time in this classroom with you is one of the absolute highlights of my entire year. I travel around the world and do very exciting research, but this is the highlight, being here with you in this classroom. It's true. Those are my true feelings. I should say my son is here. Teal, do you want to stand up? So my son, Teal, you've seen him around, and so he's taking this class. And in a way, I view all of you as part of my extended family, right? So I have my solid family here, and you're all part of this extended family. So I want to talk to you about how I think about communicating this to my family, the coronavirus, and what we're up against, and how we're going to thrive together, right? So we have spring break, and what we know is that in-person classes are canceled here. And in fact, I will not be surprised if they cancel the entire year. And there's some discussion of this at the higher levels in my department, that could happen and we should be ready for it, right? So what I'm going to do now then is tell you about the geological history of the coronavirus. I want to provide some context, some perspective. What science allows me to do is to look at the face of this, what's happening right now, and to see it as an opportunity for all of us to thrive among uncertain conditions. That is the beauty of science. It will do that for you. If you embrace science, it will teach you how to thrive in the most uncertain conditions and be successful in your life. It will do it. All you have to do is own it. Own science. Claim it. So I'm going to show you this. Let's talk about the geological history of the coronavirus. That is the coronavirus. Does anyone know why it's called the coronavirus? What's that? Yeah, so you look at these little things here. They kind of look like a crown. Corona, Latin and Spanish for crown, right? So these look like little crowns. So what we're going to do now is I introduced you to the string of time, the first class, right? I'm kind of pulling out all the stops right now because I'm going to show you stuff that I was planning to do that we won't get to do in person. But this is a good time for it. So we did the string of time, right? And in this case, we had 1 centimeter, which is the width of my pinky nail, is 1 million years. And I wrapped the whole classroom in the history of the planet, in the history of life, which is what this course is really about, right? One of the things it's about. If you didn't see that, email me. I have a video of it for you. So here is an arm. This is the arm of Gigi, who's here too, who's my spouse. And we're going to all do this together. So I want you to all stand. Stand on up. We're going to all stand here. All right. So I want to make this very personal, right? This is very personal to all of us, what's happening with the coronavirus. I want to make this course and the context of this course for understanding the coronavirus to be very personal. So we're going to all do the arm of time. And so you can just put your arm out and don't bump into your friend, right? But here we have the arm, right? And so we're going to start off with the arm of time here. Now way up here you have what's called the scapula. It's like your shoulder bone. That is the origin of our planet. And the tip of your finger is right now, the right now moment. So we're rescaling it now. So take your finger and roll off the scapula. So when you roll off the scapula, there should be a little roll. That is the formation of our moon, 4.51 billion years ago. All right, so now what I want you to do is go down to the base of this muscle here. I guess it's the bicep right here. Go right in this, right here. Right, so that's 3.7 billion years ago now. Something big happened then. And so what was that? Well, if you look very close today, you'll see bacteria that are very small. This is when bacteria evolved. This is the evolution of life, 3.7 billion years ago. Right? And we also think that that was the first virus, probably. Virus may have given life Virus may have been the stepping stone to life. So we're worried about the coronavirus, but the reason we're here may be because of viruses. Now, there's a lot of complexity with viruses, and there are many types, in fact, and maybe not all of them are linked back to the origin of life. This is a big question that people are studying now. So then now go down to your elbow, right here. Right? So this is 2.45 billion years ago. This is when oxygen came about in the oceans. Oxygen built up in the oceans. So now life forms could evolve that breathe oxygen and that use oxygen for respiration. And these include all of the cells that are in our body, right? So these include the eukaryotic cells. So what we had back here were the viruses and the bacteria, these very simple cells. And now we have the first eukaryotic cells. That's what we're made out of. And these cells look like this. They're about 10 times the size of a bacteria, about 10 times larger than a bacterium. And they are complex. They have lots of different what are called organelles. These are called mitochondria. These are the energy power plants of your cells. We'll learn about that later in the course. It's believed that these may be bacteria that got incorporated into the cell and gave rise to us, bacteria. It's hypothesized that the nucleus in here, which has the DNA, actually came from viruses being incorporated. So viruses have been essential, it's hypothesized, to our ability to thrive and the evolution of us as a life form. So then we have this march on down now, up to your first little knuckle there, right? So that's 575 million years ago. That's the origin of multicellular life. We have many cells. We are multicellular. We're made up of these eukaryotic complex cells, right? And so that is a big stepping stone to us being here. Then we have 541 million years ago. So that's just beyond the little knuckle there. This is when animals clearly had evolved, animals which are us. We're going to learn all about this later in the second half of the course. Now go on up just to the to the edge of your nail, there on the middle finger. That's when the dinosaurs went extinct. So this is 66 million years ago. This is when an object hit the Earth that was the size of Lake Mendota, and it wiped out all of the dinosaurs, except for birds, which are basically living dinosaurs. But other than them, all of the other big iconic dinosaurs, they all went away. But what that did is something very special, right? So I've told you about the formation of the moon in this class. The moon formed, and when the moon formed, that was from an object hitting our planet. And it changed our planet in a big way and created seasons and all these great things, right? This is another event where an object hit us. It was a calamity, but it gave rise to this, right? And so I did a Google search for cute mammal photos here. So, right, it gave rise to this horrible, what seemingly would be a catastrophic event, gave rise to all of the diversity of life that we know of today and which we're a part of, mammals. All right, so then we have about 250,000 years ago. This is when humans evolved. So I should note that what I'm giving you here is an outline for the rest of the course. This is basically the outline for everything we'll talk about in the second half of the semester. Everything we're going to talk about. The most recent common ancestor of the coronavirus is 8,000 years old. So that is when humans started to form cities. The first cities came about 8,000 years ago, right? And coronavirus came along with them, interestingly. And this is the latest rendition of coronavirus. This evolved in 2019. The first common ancestor 8,000 years ago. It has its deep roots in the entire history of our planet, or at least 3.7 billion years. This virus has its deep history in, as do we. All right, so what can we do? So you can all sit down now if you like. Thank you. So science provides an opportunity for us to thrive, right? That's one of the things I'd like to communicate to you in this class and have you own, right? And that you are a scientist as well, and you will never convince me otherwise that you are not, because I think it's in our DNA. I think science is in our DNA. It's just a part of who we are and our way we think. We take lessons as scientists from the past, and we learn, and we provide opportunities to thrive in uncertain conditions. That's the great thing about science. So I want to take you back to the 1918 flu, which was a giant pandemic. about 100 million people died, up to 100 million people died globally. It infected about 27% of the world population at the time. So 1 in 4 people almost were infected by this. And this is one of the scenes of the hospitals, right? So what do we know? We can study this event. And here's what we know from this and also from a range of other studies. Proactive school closures, closing schools before there's a case there, which is pretty much here, right, what we're doing here, have been shown to be one of the most powerful non-pharmaceutical interventions that we can deploy. What they found in studying the 1918 flu pandemic was that proactive school closing saved substantial numbers of lives. For example, St. Louis closed the schools about a day in advance of the epidemic spiking. For 143 days they closed. Pittsburgh closed 7 days after the peak. They were late, and only for 53 days. And the death rate for the epidemic in St. Louis was roughly 1/3 as high as in Pittsburgh. These things work. So this university is one of the leading research universities in the world. We know what we're doing with this, right? So you can take some solace in that. If you're going to be dealing with this, you're dealing with great scientists and great people who understand the social dimensions of this and how to thrive. So what are we going to do? The coronavirus is coming. Be prepared, not scared, right? So this is a key. I love that this was something from you, right? One of you said this, and this is just absolutely fantastic. It shows me that you're thinking like a scientist. And I want all of you to feel this way. So what we're doing now is social distancing. And that means right now we're not worried about this room. The university didn't shut classes down today. They're smart about this. They know what they're doing. They're worried about when people come back and then all of a sudden everyone being close to each other, especially in dorms, right? And they're trying to limit the number of people that need to go to the hospital because the worst case scenario, you don't want to be in a situation where there's more sick people than hospital beds. And so we know what we're doing. We have cases from the past. So how are we going to do this? How are we going to thrive? Well, this is something, again, I've learned as a scientist. I've approached this class as a scientist. And many of you have asked this question throughout the semester. What is the camera for on the second level of the class? And are the videos posted anywhere? And in general, they haven't been, because I've been preparing for this moment for 2 years. And I didn't know this moment would happen exactly. I'm just a scientist, and I'm thinking about the future. And I take lessons from my spouse, who says, always document. She's a social documentary photographer. Always take recordings. Always document, because you never know when you're going to need it. So this is also a lesson from photography. So that's what we've done. So we are set up to absolutely thrive. And you might even think that what we did with Topic 9 was a test intentionally, and I can't claim that we intentionally did it knowing, but it was a test to see how this would work, the rollout, and it's worked out well. People have responded positively. So we're going to continue. So we're still figuring out the details, but we are set up with 2 years of lectures, and now Ethan, who's our dedicated videographer who's up there, is going to be working diligently on this with myself to create content for you to do that way. And we're going to do other things too that are quite exciting, I think. Right? One of the things we're going to miss. So I'm going to reveal some big surprises, right? The whole idea of this course was the first half is teaching you about geological tools, about the tools we could use to understand Earth history. The second half was going to be an explosion of excitement about the history of our planet. And we invite in artists and filmmakers and musicians and some people you may know of that have some celebrity into the classroom to teach science together. How many of you knew that coming into this course? All right, I always wonder how so there's a few of you knew about this. So I'm going to show you, this is what we were going to do. I invited a band to come in that I've been working with. So they're going to come in here. I'm going to show you what we probably won't be able to do in class, but we have other things planned. It really started with this ambition that I have, and I've had for quite a few years, to awaken the inner scientist that I think dwells in all of us. I know I see so much inspiration and motivation for what I do, for what I've devoted my life to science. So how do you communicate that to other people, and to the students in particular? I know, in my case, it's inspiration. So how do I communicate inspiration to the students? think about the beginnings that matter most to you. What about the first words you spoke? The first steps you took? Those are beginnings you may not remember, but certainly your parents do. Your first swim, your first time riding a bike by yourself, your first day of college, your first love. Maybe you've experienced that. Those are very meaningful beginnings to you. There's another beginning that is just as meaningful to you, although you might not quite realize it. It's the biggest beginning of all, and it goes back about 13.7 billion years ago. Welcome to another day in Geoscience 100. It starts collapsing in on itself because of gravity, and if it does that, it starts to speed up.
So if I actually do this with my slide, I can change the pitch. That's going to give you a little idea of what's about to happen.
All right, so that's one way to change a note. And I'm a scientist. I'm always thinking of ways to do things differently. And I'm going to show you another way to change Mark's note. So what I'm going to do is take Mark and put him in a car in early March on an unseasonably warm day. We lucked out in the countryside, and I'm going to drive him really fast down the road. Oh, they were immediately on board and really excited about this idea of blending science and music, and using music to express emotion behind science and the motivation, and try to capture the students' attention and interest in a new way. Turns out that catastrophe in its own way can be a creative force too. Even during the most troubling times, we can take personal notes from this from our lives. There's an opportunity to view that as a future. I want to keep developing this idea of bringing music and art in as a way to communicate the emotion of science and the motivation of science. You are a scientist. Every one of you is a scientist. Whether or not you realize it yet, you are. So, that leads us, thank you. So we're going to do something special, right? So that was, what we're trying to do, what I like to think about is, what if you just do something that's never been done before? Like imagine something, right? So this is what I want you to do with your got and not. We collaborate together, right? So what I want you to do for the got and not today is talk to your friend next to you, and you could spend a few extra minutes here. We have about 7 minutes, but you could spend 15 minutes if you want. And on one side of that got, I want you to put some crazy idea for what you want to do. Like it's been my dream to have a lecture with Beyonce, right? So that would be on one side. It turns out it's really hard to get a hold of Beyonce. All right, so I want to do a lecture with Beyonce. The other side would be something very practical, like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? Like, why don't we have a thing where you get extra credit or you get lab credit for doing a geological excursion in your neighborhood or wherever you're going now, and write a little paragraph about what you found and how it relates to what we're doing. Like, that could be something that doesn't cost a lot of money, right? So I want you to talk about that with your friend and write one on either side, something that's crazy out there and something that is very tangible. And then I gave you a little more space this time. And then I'm going to look through all those, and we're going to thrive together. We're going to figure out a way, even if you miss this, right, we're going to make some special things happen for you. And it's going to be a fun semester. We're going to do a lot of cool stuff. And especially if we can come back that last week, there are some events planned, let me say, that are still developing and creating that we're moving forward with for you. So hopefully that will happen. All right, so I'll just stop talking now, right? And let me just have the team stand up for a moment, Naomi and everyone, right? And Ethan back there, and Colby and Andrew, right? Let's give them a round of applause. Right, so we're all going to be here for you through this next, whatever is the next portion of the semester. That's it. I'm done talking. Make sure you put your gots and knots in the bags. And we'll be seeing you online or somewhere.